War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 p.m. Eastern Time, roughly. You know what that means. It's time for another Auburn family live stream where we get together and we let you dictate how this show goes. Anything is on the table to discuss in the Auburn family spectrum. Lots of sports talks, I'm sure, but really, any way you want to go with it, this is your show because it's Wednesday night and it's all about you, the Auburn family. We'll be taking your comments, your questions, and hopefully your calls tonight for the next hour-ish, and just be going with whatever you want to discuss tonight. And we appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time to talk about all of those different things, whether you are watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. Like I said, we just appreciate you being here, choosing us as your Auburn content provider. And however we get you here, if it's on any of those different formats or platforms, we appreciate you just hanging out with us. With that being said, let's get started how we typically get each night started, or every live stream started at the very least, with our check-in period. Post where you're watching from, city, state, international, right now in the chat. Post that right now. And also in unison together across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, smash the like button. Do that one thing for us is a humongous help to get us started, to get us going, and to get us off on the right foot to get our live stream started tonight. And also, I'm a little out of sorts tonight. Also, post where you're watching from in the chat too. Would love to know who's here hanging out with us and from where you are watching tonight. Whoa, there they all went. I was wondering for a second. I was like, where are all the different comments? But here they all are. They just popped in all of a sudden. So humongous crowd already here tonight. So appreciate you guys popping in to say hello. As I said, this is going to be a call-in show tonight. We will be opening up the phone lines as typical for our Wednesday night shows. I do anticipate some people calling in that told me they were going to. So my advice to you tonight is this. If you plan on calling in, because I will have to be done right at 9 o'clock tonight, do it early. Go ahead and get in line. Just hang in there. It may be a line that backs up. The link is available right now. It's brought to you by our friends at allthingsauburn.net. I will mention them again a little bit later in the show, but they do bring the call-in link to you and these shows to you. So check that out. If you want to, it's in the chat room right now. The live chat at the very top should be pinned up there. If you don't see it, let me know and we can go from there. Call line is open. You pick the topics tonight. So let's say hello and see what you guys are already mentioning up there. And we'll just kind of start our conversation there till we get some calls tonight. We got Devin and laid up in the bed sick tuning in. Oh, that is terrible. Everybody is getting some sort of like sickness. I know I sound like I'm sick, but I'm not. It's just nose runny, all that kind of typical stuff that happens when you go from freezing cold to 70-degree weather. And now we're going to be going back to cold weather again. It is the South. And I know Devin's in Texas, but everybody in the South knows what I mean. Brian doesn't know what we mean, but he's dealing with his own type of cold up there in Minnesota. You got Neil checking in. Larry from Northport. Ooh, bless you, sir. Bless you in very close to bad country there. Latrice, good to see you. Dusty, Thomas. Who else is here? Stan, David Franks, Jacob. Man, a lot of good people here already tonight. All right, well, I've said hello to, I think, most everybody who has commented. So let's go ahead and get started with our conversation tonight. What do you guys want to talk about? What's on the table for you? What's on the agenda? What's on your mind? I can guess a few things. Offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, transfer portals, social media discussions. Christmas. Anybody excited about Christmas? I've had my there's, I guess, behind me right now, the way it's set up, you can only see one. There's two lights. I got to figure out a better way to set up my Auburn Christmas lights behind me so that you can actually enjoy them. That would be like the smart thing to do, Kyle. The transfer portal is wide open. Lots of quarterbacks on the market. So let me just ask this blanket statement. How does everyone feel about the transfer portal? Is it exciting to you, everything that's going on? Is it frustrating? Is it intriguing? Are you just confused? What's everyone's opinion about the wide open transfer portal, specifically for football? I'm just a little overwhelmed. And maybe it's the coverage of it so much that has evolved. I think I guess it would technically be year 2 of having it wide open. Lots of other media entities have developed their, graphics departments better and been prepared for these type of things. So it feels like every second there's a new graphic being posted for a transfer in, a transfer out, mainly transfers out or just going into the portal. So it's just, for me, it's a little overwhelming right now to kind of grasp it all and take it all in. There's been some Auburn guys that have obviously put themselves into the portal. Not really a lot of shockers there, I don't think. So maybe we can touch on a few of those things tonight. Neil says the portal is weird. No loyalty, just me. So here's where I'm going to go on that, Neil. There is a part of Kyle that actually lines very much with what you're saying there. But there's also a part of me that understands that this is where the game is going regardless of that. And it's not necessarily a complete selfish thing to do, but it in some ways it does come across that way. And it is that way. It is I think for me, it's just overwhelming because I'm having to be forced to get used to these things that I didn't necessarily want to get used to. And now here we are. Transfer portal does give teams with lesser records an easier way to catch up. That's a great point, Hillbilly. A lot of that. I'm a traditionalist, so the portal. So I don't love the portal, but it's here to stay. So let's win the portal season. Absolutely. You got to do what you got to do with what's available with NIL, and the transfer portal will be used with NIL. The transfer portal being used more than ever. I think we just better get used to it. I am. I am afraid you are correct. See a lot of other people mentioning some other topics they want to hit. We'll hit some of those tonight. Maybe he's just giving a shout out to your number one Auburn men's golf team, and the women's golf team is not too bad either. Now they're on hiatus right now, and I'm supporting tennis tonight. I don't know if you can tell behind the lean this way, Kyle. There you go. Tennis. Wow. This whole mirroring effect that happens on the live stream is a little bit weird for me. So we'll hit a lot of the other topics that you guys are bringing up. We do have our first caller tonight, so we want to go ahead and say hello to him just in case we start getting backed up tonight. You know him, you love him, Mr. Dusty. What's going on, sir?
Evening, brother. How you doing?
Good. Love that hat. Love that hat.
Yes, sir. That old school Pat dye.
It is good stuff, my man. I've got a closet over there full of hats that I refuse to wear because they're just too valuable to me. That is one of them. It used to sit somewhere over here, but I finally just put them all nice and neat up on this shelf. So I'm glad that you were brave enough to sport it because I would love to wear it, but it's just like too precious to me at this point.
Yeah. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, don't go into Alumni Hall. It's
there you go, Alumni Hall. There's your free spot for tonight.
Listen, I'll give it to him. It's ridiculous in there.
I am all on board. Alumni Hall right now. Look at me. You want some airtime on here? I am all for this. So come on right now. This is your free, my pitch to you. Come on, be part of this thing over here.
Kyle, I bought it was the 80s basketball warm-up suit. Like
the 80s basketball warm-up suit?
Yeah, like the jacket and the shorts and the pants. That had like the whole thing.
They got the ripaways. You got the ripaways?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like $200 outfit, and I just did it.
That's a different type of impulse buying, my friend.
I have no discipline.
Hey, at least you can admit it. I can appreciate someone who doesn't have discipline that says, I just acknowledge it and own it. Now we hope at some point that that acknowledgement moves into more discipline, but you're at least at the first step right there.
I don't know. I'm 31 years in and I still have a problem buying Auburn stuff. I don't know if it's going to change.
Yes, it is. It's tough. It's tough to not see those good deals. I had a hat in J&M the other day that I'm actually asking for it for Christmas now, but I literally actually Devin was with me when we were taking her around her tour of campus. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to buy this thing. And I kept looking at it. And finally I just said, no, I'll just wait. And I've held out till Christmas. It's maybe I'll wear it on the first live stream after Christmas if I get it from somebody.
There's a lot of people in my family that have got pictures of just random clothes. Hey, go on the website and buy me this for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, you didn't come to talk with me about apparel. Maybe you did. What's on your mind?
Two things. I wanted to talk about the portal anyway, since you talked about it. But one thing I wanted to touch on real quick and kind of get your opinion on it. Man, look, I'll just get to it. Everybody's got a job to do, but I put up a poll on Twitter today, and about a couple hours ago, and it's already got 506 votes, and it's just a simple question: should AL.com still be allowed credentials and access into the Auburn building? It's 90% no to 10% yes. For if you want to trust the people. And listen, man, here's what, again, you have a job to do. I don't like some of the reporters for like ESPN and stuff like that, but I know that they have a job to do, and I don't feel like they crossed the line. I think they bend some stuff. I'm talking about Pete Thamel. I think they bend some stuff and and things like that. But with AL.com, man, this is it's like an orchestrated hit. And you look at the piece today, and I always avoid politics, but so don't think I'm leaning one way or the other, because if you ever see anything that I post, I promise you I hate the left and the right. I ain't with all that. That's division. But we won't get into that. But they post a thing saying that Hugh Freeze is our Donald Trump. And again, I'm not saying I'm pro or against Trump. What I'm saying is, what they're trying to say with that.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what they're indicating. And it's like, and y'all all saw it. So I just simply and humbly ask, don't click on their stuff. Don't even click on it. Don't buy into it. Just boycott it, because man, like the fact that they get to sit, like Goodman's question in the opening press conference.
And was this Goodman's article? I haven't.
No,
read
this wasn't. This was wrote by a guy that now is getting it. A lot of people are sending me stuff in my DMs about the guy that wrote it. He's an Alabama law school graduate. Just quit clicking on AL.com. Like let's all decide to just boycott that and not be a part of that, because you have there's many great places. There's Auburn Daily. There's E2C. There's so many places that you can go. And there's been the people that have clapped back and said, so you only want pro Auburn media? No, you can go to ESPN. You can go to CBS 24/7. A guy like Josh Pate. I don't agree with everything he says about Auburn, but he covers it fairly. There's no agenda there. He's giving you his opinion and the facts of what he knows. There's ways to go about it. They're clearly doing their stuff some way. And just to be honest with you, Kyle, and I'm just speaking for me.
Yeah,
I think it's pathetic. I think it's low down. And you've talked before about how like the negative stuff can get the clicks.
Yep,
it can. But I think what's happened in their case is they've done it so much that I think that really a lot of Auburn people see AL.com and they're like, I'm not even clicking on that, man. Like my buddy that's an LSU fan, he's like, yo, what is their deal with y'all? And he just comes across it in passing. He's much more plugged into corn dog stuff. So I just it's just wild to me. And I'm gonna be honest, man, on the portal, man, like I want your opinion on that too. I'm torn. I'm torn because I don't like it when you see these numbers. And I think there are kids that are hurting themselves, like the D tackle of ours. Now, I don't know, in a situation like ours, I don't know what kids are getting processed. Like It seems like Calzada got told, hey, listen, there's no spot for you here.
Right.
And I don't have any information on that. Just if you read what's reported, that's what it seems to like what happened. But so with Robinson, our D tackle, man, this is a position that's going to be thin, and you've been with us for 2 years. So it kind of seems like now, again, if he got processed, I don't know, but just naturally, it seems like, hey, man, you're ready. This is now your time, to take that next step. And it makes me wonder, like, are some of these kids hurting themselves? Because now you're going to a new school, you're setting yourself back. It's just a lot of stuff. And you've only got 4 to 5 years max to get this right.
Right.
It'll be really interesting to see in 4 or 5 years, like the big sample size. Okay, how many of these were failures? How many of them were success? Because again, I think you're better in most cases. It's better to stay and be loyal to that school, because you're just probably not. Odds are you're not going to pan out in the NFL. But when you look at a guy like but when you have a guy like Trevon Reed, right, who stayed loyal to Auburn, in his playing career, the stats aren't there. It's not all that great. Now, to be fair to Trevon, he was in the wrong position for 3 years. You know, and we saw that his senior year, and he actually made some interceptions in the NFL playing defensive back. But 4 years out of school, and now later on in life, that school is being loyal to him, and he has a job and is paying him back. And I think a lot of kids aren't looking down the line at that. And yeah, but at the same time, this is the argument that always gets me, and I'll let you give me your opinions on, you know,
yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say about AL.com as well. Because like
you're trying to set me up tonight.
No, I'm being serious.
I know.
My question is, at what point does the school say, listen, you're making cartoons about our coach, you went all on this stuff about Harsin and his health choices, you just go on at Hatgate, you guys just go on and on and on with this. At what point is your agenda clear and you don't deserve credentials to what we got going on here? Because to me, it's like you have a snake in our locker room. And then about the portal, just my thing is when a player can then say, okay, well, this coach can, you know, a Nick Eason, a guy that every year goes and takes a different position job, that takes the same job at a different school every single year.
Yeah.
So I feel the kid when the kid says, hey, man, these coaches Brian Kelly left Notre Dame in the dust.
Right.
So I feel that as well.
Yeah. Well, let me try to take this in two things here. So the AL.com piece, frankly, I don't have enough time, much less to look at in depth a lot of other people's stuff anyway, or even podcasts and stuff. I wish I did. I didn't. I saw this one circulating around today, and I was like, oh, I know where that's going. I'm just going to let that be. Didn't even give it the time of day. I will tell you this, that working in this industry now, I guess if that's too cliche of a term to use now, it becomes more apparent that you kind of have to go with some trends and know what's actually going to get a reaction out of people. And to your point, I mean, just kind of using an example, they got a reaction, right? So yeah, that's kind of what they wanted. I'm not going to make calls for who shouldn't be allowed in to think, because I'm still working on that myself. If you catch my drift. But I will say that
that's my point. There's people like you that deserve it.
Well, and I appreciate that. But, you know, I think the thing is that accountability can't come from the athletic department, as less the higher ups at AL.com. And if they're okay with that, you know, there's people that have to sign off on editorials and all that kind of stuff. So if that's what they're okay in, then that's what's going to happen. The best way, if you have a big problem with what was like posted today, don't read it. Don't click on it. Yeah, that's the easiest way. Like, just to be frank with you, like here on this YouTube channel, I stopped doing some series and stuff because nobody would click on it. I mean, that's just the ins and outs of all that. But moving aside from that, because it is frustrating to see that, but the best way to tackle that, don't give it the time of day. Transfer portal stuff, I kind of already hit on a little bit. For me, it's a more of an overwhelming thing, because I see it, like you said, you see these coaches bouncing around. So why can't the kids do it too? But at the same time, you want loyalty. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be this way for a little while, where nobody really knows how to feel about it, or you're just going to choose a side and stay there on it, because we got to find some middle ground where we're not having however many kids it is all at once just deciding to get in there. And it's the cool thing to do right now. I think some people just threw their name in there simply just to see what happens. You know, there's rumors that some of the Auburn players that are in there are going to come back. Like, I think Zevion Capers was one of the ones that was thrown out that may end up taking his name out of the portal at some point. I don't know where we're sitting on that. To me, it's a lot of overwhelming confusion at this point. And my inclination is to be a grumpy old man and say, hey, be loyal to your school, man. But I also am trying to kind of see it from both sides of that. It's tough. It really is tough.
The NIL is what murkies it up when you think about kids are doing this just to see their market value and all that kind of stuff. And because you get into that territory of like salary caps and pro sports, but at least in the pro sports, it's regulated. Right now, it's just the Wild West on the college front as far as the portal goes. You know, there's all kind of illegal tampering that goes on. Right. And I'm not saying we didn't look. I hope we get this tight end from FIU. Forward. He's visiting this weekend. You know, we got to have him.
Could be that first one.
It would be it would be nice. He's already got 800 yards in 2 years. For us, he'd probably be a career. I don't know what Schenker ended up with, but that would have you up on the charts seriously as an Auburn tight end.
Wow.
So he enters a portal, and within 10 minutes we've offered him, kind of thing. Like, I'm not saying we're not doing it too, but it's got to be cleaned up, man. This is messy, and I feel bad for small schools or a mid-major type program that hits on a kid that maybe the other teams looked at, and he has a good year or two, and now he goes somewhere else because he's able to make more money and all that kind of stuff. And they need to get the NIL worked out to where it's not supposed to be pay for play, but it sure seems like that's what it is.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It really is. Yeah, it's frustrating, and we'll just have to continue to work through it and figure out how we can make more solid conclusions about it. But right now, it's just, I think the best way to describe it is fog of war. And we will definitely, just have to continue to reassess it. So
it played a part in setting back NCAA from coming out another year.
Yep, it did.
I don't appreciate.
Don't even get me started there. Don't get me started there. That'll get me riled up.
Kyle.
All right, man. I got some other people lined up, so I'm gonna let you go. But you brought two good, very spicy topics to the table today, so I appreciate it.
Hey, War Eagle, man. Appreciate it.
All right, War Eagle, to hear from you. Good to hear from you, man. Bye. All right, we got our next caller in. Here he is, Mr. Kevin. How are you doing, sir? Kevin, you there?
Eagle, Cal, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Merry early Christmas to you, sir. I appreciate getting an early Christmas greeting from someone. You know, I am a big Christmas person, and, you know, I love putting lights out. If you could see my yard right now, it's crazy. I'm like Clark Griswold, not to that level maybe, but I'm trying to get there. So I appreciate the Christmas greetings. Can you hear me? Kevin?
Do you think Tank be back next year?
Do I think
if
Tank will be back next year? I don't know, man. To me, it seems like if he were going to go to the NFL, like it was a sure thing, he would have already made that announcement. But at the same time, I know he's probably having a lot of hard conversations with Cadillac, with Coach Freeze, with, whoever else he needs to talk with about. So to me, the longer this thing goes, the more likely it is that he would come back. I just don't know that it's in his best interest. Does that make sense? Kevin, can you hear me?
Back.
What's that? Yeah. Say it again.
Because we already lost. Yeah, we already.
Hey, Kevin, you've got a bad connection. I don't know why I'm doing my hand over my head. Listen, you've got a bad connection. Call back in. We'll take your call one more time, but try to go somewhere else real quick because we keep freezing up on us. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry to Kevin. We'll try again, Kevin. We'll get you back in over here. All right. Sorry about that. I'm getting a lot of notifications and stuff, all trying to manage all these different things right now. Anyway, so sorry about that, Kevin. Call back in and we'll let you back in as soon as we can get you in line there. What else is going on in the chat here while we kind of wait for people to call back in? Neil says 50-50 on Tank. Seems like he'd be excited to play for Freeze. Yeah, I think you would see some excitement there. I don't know that excitement alone would be what gives him that extra edge to stay. For him, it really needs to be a question of the balance between where can I benefit from NFL draft wise versus where the risk of getting hurt would be. And I don't know if there's a clear answer on that. To me, he stayed healthy for the most part. Kind of feels like, I'm just being a pessimist here, I guess, the other shoe may drop at some point. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think about Tank? All right, we'll try Kevin one more time, buddy. There you are. How are you doing? Kevin, can you hear us? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next question, buddy? We'll try and get the question in at least.
How come Jordan Ingram left?
Well, you gotta. I can't answer that question without actually talking to him. What I can do is kind of look at the room, so to speak, look at the running back room. Tank still hasn't made his choice yet, right? So you got to at least assume there's a likelihood he comes back. So he's thinking about that. He's looking at the Jarquez Hunter is going to be the heir apparent. He's looking at, Sean Jackson's still in that room. Damari Alston's in that room. And all indications that Jeremiah Cobb is going to continue to commit with his commitment. So you kind of look around, if I'm Jordan Ingram, and you go, I got to find a better situation for myself. And that's probably what's going on with him. Just my interpretation of why that decision was made. Does that make sense? Do you have another question, Kevin?
Yeah. Do you think we find another quarterback?
I think the likelihood of us signing another quarterback is higher than ever with Zach Calzada now going into the transfer portal. So you got to look at the room there too. You look at Robbie Ashford, right? And then you've got Holden Gurner still in there. You've got Adrian Passe that's going to come to the next class, not this class. And then the guy we just signed. And I feel like I'm forgetting somebody because TJ, I think, is gone too. So really there is room for someone to come in. Now, is that a depth piece and that Robbie is still the quarterback, or is that going to be a guy who comes in and takes the starting job, or is assumed to take that? We all thought that Zach Calzada would take the starting job, but he was injured the entire time. So that's the big question is not, will we get a quarterback? What type of quarterback?
It says TJ will be back.
Where did you get that? I may have missed that one. TJ's coming back, you said?
Yeah, because he haven't entered no transfer thing yet.
Oh, just because he hasn't entered, it doesn't mean he's staying here at Auburn. I have it on pretty good authority that he is not coming back. But if there's no official confirmation of that yet, then I would not plan on TJ being back at this moment, based on what I have been told. Yeah. All right, I got time for one more question, Kevin. Say that one more time.
How about the defense back? Is Nehemiah Pritchett coming back?
I think he's a senior, so I think he's done regardless. I guess everybody has still technically a COVID year. And everybody, so we've gotten Derek Hall, Colby Wooden, Marquise Burks today, and Owen Papo have all, said they're going into the NFL draft. So it's kind of the same when you asked me about Tank Bigsby. The longer this takes for someone to say, goodbye, they're goodbye, I'm entering the draft, I'm entering the transfer portal, that should be a good sign that they may be back. I don't know. We'll see. I would love it. He was one of our more consistent cornerbacks, and I'd like to have someone kind of help us continue to transition into the Hugh Freeze era, even though he's an offensive-minded coach, but it would be nice to have some stability there. So
how about DJ James?
I love DJ James. Obviously got a lot of notoriety from the media, I think, is where he fell on the list and be on the all SEC media list, or maybe it was the coaches list. I can't remember. But really big talent. Excited to watch his career unfold here at Auburn. Kevin, thanks for calling in tonight, buddy. I appreciate you, and thanks for working through all those connectivity issues.
Hey, I'm excited for this coming Saturday watching Auburn beat Memphis.
I am too, buddy. I will be there, and I'll try to wave at you on the TV screen if I get there. All right?
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Talk to you later, Kevin. Bye. All right. That's Kevin. All right. We got another call on the line. We'll bring him in just a second here. But let me take a second here to remind you of our friends over at allthingsauburn.net. You'll see their logo up in the top right now. My top right. Check them out if you can at allthingsauburn.net. They're not just a place for you to stay at Auburn. They are a place for you to have a full and complete Auburn experience. Miss Tanya, she's the nicest lady in the world. She will help you get set up for a place to stay close to all of your favorite venues in Auburn. Jordan-Hare Stadium, Neville Arena, Plainsman Park, downtown Auburn, Sanford Lawn, all the places within easy walking distance and right by Mama Goldberg's. That's a really good thing in and of itself. So check them out at allthingsauburn.net. They bring you the Wednesday night show every single every single week. I almost said every single Wednesday night again. That was a oxymoron. With that being said, let's say hello to our next caller tonight. One of my good friends, Mr. Hal Walker. Hal, how are you doing?
I'm great, Kyle. How are you?
I am doing well, sir. What is on your mind, sir?
Well, the topic of the night seems to be transfer portal, and my question is, can Hugh Freeze reach out there and take advantage of that, like so many other coaches have, and plug some holes?
I hope so. I think it's in his best interest to do so. Not that he's in danger of being fired or anything like that. He just got here. We'd hope that's not gone that way. But I would say that for him to close the gap between Alabama and Georgia in any type of fast fashion, he's going to have to maximize the transfer portal to the best of his ability. Now, does that mean quarterback? That's a big question. You know, there's a lot of people asking if Robbie Ashford is the guy. Can we go out and I saw that. I think it's Drake May from North Carolina went into the transfer portal, which was just shocking to me. And so me wanting to be loyal to Robbie Ashford's like, let's work with him. Let's see what Hugh Freeze can do to it. But then you look over there, the shiny new object in the transfer portal at Drake May. And I'm like, hey, why don't we give that a look if he wants to come over here? My big thing, transfer portal, he will have a successful year or a successful time in the transfer portal if he goes and maximizes the offensive linemen that are out there right now. You've watched Auburn football some this year too, and you've seen how porous that offensive line is. It's pretty bad.
There are some offensive linemen out there that have left their schools, and some of it's a little bit of a head scratcher, but they're available out there. And just like Auburn has taken advantage prior to the transfer portal, just transfers from junior colleges and such. Mm-hmm. I think there's people out there ripe for the picking that can definitely fill some gaps with the Tigers next year.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities at the offensive line position too, because I mean, we're getting rid of, and that sounds mean, but we're losing, it's probably a better way to say it, about 7 guys minimum, if not 8. And then Keandre Jones, who would have been a guy that stayed over, just went into the transfer portal. So if he stays there, goes somewhere else, that's another name on this. So this is like my pitch to anybody who's an offensive lineman in the transfer portal. If you want to start instantly, not just simply because we were bad, but because everybody's gone, come to Auburn. I mean, it's as simple as that. So I think he will have the easiest time having success offensive line wise in the transfer portal simply because of the availability for playing time. You will still have to compete, but you can just look at the gaping hole literally now that it is there with everybody exiting. Any other areas that you think Auburn should maximize in the transfer portal?
Well, quarterback is definitely something that everybody needs help with. Anybody can go down any given Saturday, and you've got to have somebody that's ready to step in. And I'm looking at the list of transfer portal quarterbacks right now, and it's wide open. I mean, you got DJ from Clemson.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about that one.
You got Devin Leary from NC State. All these guys have great experience in play, and they may have had off years, and they may have been recipients of the Coach Prime speech, you need to go somewhere else. But they definitely are going to make a difference for a school next year. It's just a matter of where they're going.
Speaking of which, I know it's not really Auburn related, but we bounce outside of those lines every once in a while. What's your thoughts on Coach Prime and how that's going to work at, the Buffalo situation, and just any thoughts about how that story?
I mean, he's awful bold. We've seen the videos of what occurred when he went out there and met with the team and basically said, guys, you need to start packing because most of y'all aren't staying. And by the way, here's my son, next year's quarterback. Wow. But, he was very successful at his school where he was at. And sure, it wasn't Division I, but, there's still some great success there. He's got, personal success from the NFL and Florida State. I think he's a winner. It's just a matter of, A, can they come up with the money to pay him, which the university is currently saying no, but they're working on it.
Right.
And
That's bold on their
will
part.
the people of Colorado be accepting to this new way of football?
Right. To me, I see less of an obstacle for them to be accepting to this new way of football. There will be some, I'm sure. It's, any change creates friction. To me, Colorado hasn't been I mean, I can't think of the last time Colorado was relevant. I'm going to mispronounce his name. Rashawn Shalom, I think, is what their Heisman running back was.
Mhm.
That's the last time I could tell you that Colorado was relevant to the conversation. I'm sure they've had an up year here or there where it was better than normal, but like, to me, if I'm in their shoes, if this guy's willing to come in and just clean house and say, let's start anew, you let the dude do what he can. Now, I don't know, to kind of bring it back to Auburn stuff, that would not have gone over well here. Let's just be honest. I don't know that Dion could have walked in and made that exact same speech. Maybe a little bit different way of phrasing some things. I think it was a little bold to come out and say, my son's going to start right away. But hey, listen, he's the guy that has got all the hype right now. And I guess you kind of can feel like you can say whatever you want at the moment.
Yeah, just on a funny note, I wonder how many of those guys, and I wonder if it's even legal, if they're going to get any NIL money from these marijuana dispensaries in Colorado.
It's the question that we've all thought about. We haven't actually said yet. That is one of those things that I think is literally, if you thought the transfer portal was already crazy and the NIL and all that stuff is not crazy enough, what happens when some of those companies that have, how do I say this, questionable or at least debatable ethical things involved, when they become involved with this, how does that change the game? How does that make this even more frustrating, more uncomfortable, more friction? We are in a world of friction, and as I described a little bit earlier, the fog of war of transfer portal and NIL continues. It's just,
well, and since the NIL came out, I've been an advocate for that. It definitely needs to be reworked. I mean, it's a great opportunity because so many of your players for such a long time, go to school, they work, study, they practice, they lift, they do this, they've got to go eat, and a whole lot of them didn't have $20 to take their girlfriend to a movie. So now they've got this, but you also run into situations that we've seen where a quarterback may have $2 million worth of deals, and the guy that's snapping him the ball has nothing.
Right.
Certainly, that creates a little bit of animosity as you go along. I think it'd be great if they would, maybe set this money in trust. I think the only thing that looked halfway decent was what Texas A&M did, where I believe the story was pretty much their whole recruiting class had promised money.
right.
It'd be great if you could just do that across the board for every player on the team, guarantee them X, because there's a lot of folks that may never see the field that still struggle month to month to do things outside of football and school.
Yep.
It definitely helped those guys.
I like what you said there too, and to kind of take not even just a football look at this too. What On to Victory Do has been announcing lately, their goal, I think, is to have every single team / athlete at Auburn on the payroll, so to speak. They just announced that they were able to sign the entire women's basketball team to a deal. If anybody in the chat can correct me, I believe that's the true statement. So I think you're right. NIL works best, I think, where there is equal opportunity as a buzzword, obviously in the business world, but everybody kind of has a fair starting point. But, I've always been a fan, frankly, of the whole, if you can sell more of your jersey on the back, like your name on the back, by all means, like that's fine. Everybody gets a same starting point, because let's take, Cam Newton was here, obviously, number 2, Newton on the back is going to be selling out the wazoo. But, there have been players like Will Hastings, a little short wide receiver that was here, who had big fan followings. And you can't tell me that his friend group and that the people that loved Will Hastings, White Lightning, as he was called, wouldn't have just made tons of money off having Hastings and his number on the back. I'm blanking on his number, 33 right now. So I know I keep coming back to the statement, fog of war. It's uncomfortable right now, but it's part of our world.
Do you think that Hugh Freeze gave a similar speech to the Auburn football team when he arrived? Did he tell them they were going to have to compete to make it back?
Compete, I would say, but probably in not so strong of terms. Hugh does not strike me as a guy that has fiery type of speeches. Maybe such as like a Dion. I would say it was phrased a lot differently. There's a clip out there of him walking into the room to address everybody and kind of giving his initial like kind of pep. I would describe him more as a pep guy, as a rev up guy, if that makes sense. So there is changes that's going to have to be made, and he's going to have to make those decisions and indications to players that, hey, maybe this is not the best place for you to be. But when we compare that to Deion Sanders, it's definitely a different way of doing things.
Yeah. Kyle, I saw an article today talking about the number of candidates that Auburn actually looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised at that number, but to me, it makes a lot of sense because it's been a while since Auburn's had a coach in place that was an everything guy, a handshaker, a guy that pat you on the back, somebody that's going to go talk to boosters and fans alike. So many of the recent guys have kind of been untouchable in that, they didn't want to be a part of that. I mean, but you come to a school where you got Bruce Pearl.
Yep.
You've got to open up yourself and have a little more personality with the fans, or it's going to be hard to get them to accept you. But I think that was probably part of the vetting process.
Yep.
There was probably a lot of good coaches they spoke to, but if they're not going to fit into the mold that they need this coach to be in, they probably had to take a pass on them. And Hugh may be at the top of the list. I don't know that not to be the case, but I still think a lot went into, personality as well as the ability to win. You've got to fit into this small town.
You absolutely do. It's definitely a unique situation, and everybody's got unique situations in small college towns, bigger college towns, but Auburn's a different beast. It's a place where you can have success very, very quickly. It's also a place that gets very, very grumpy if that success is not maintained and sustained for a reasonable amount of time. So Hugh, thankfully, is starting is just now starting, obviously, and has a lot of leash in some respects here right now. But I would, as we kind of started our call talking about, I think he can go a long way to endearing himself toward the Auburn family by maximizing offensive line, transfer portal, and recruiting, just traditional high school recruiting right now. If he does those small things that a lot of Auburn fans have been hyping on, the rest will fall into place because he has a proven track record that he can do that. So that's my hope for Hugh. And that's my hope for us, because boy, do we need it after 2 years of frustration.
Well, and living here in this town, it's unique because we've seen coaches come and go, and I've got children that were in high school with some coaches' kids, and they get pulled out of school at Christmas, and you never see them again. It's detrimental to the whole family when you've got a coach that has to move on for one reason or another. So, we want them to be successful. We want them to, put down an anchor and stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And just have that constant knowledge of knowing that this is going to be the coach next year. He's going to work hard to win more games, or he's going to work hard to stay on top. It's nice to see that. Just like my daughter earlier today was commenting about Harson's son is going to play rec basketball here in the spring. So I guess they're going to be staying in town for a while. And that's good for him. He needs to finish out a school year and not be pulled out and go somewhere else.
Yeah. And, there was a lot of uncomfortable pictures of Harsin, obviously, at the state championship situation there. But obviously, I think he was able to watch it for the most part. My hope is that at a time that, Harsin, I don't know that he'll ever be welcomed back or celebrated because he doesn't have a national championship like Gene Chizik did to kind of have a reason to endear back. But I hope that they can have some semblance of a peaceful finishing out here, especially for the family part of it. Right. And find success elsewhere, because for whatever reason, whether it was a poor foundation, whether it was opportunities weren't given in certain areas, or just the way he did things just didn't work out here. Somebody's always affected beyond the coach, his staff, all that kind of stuff, because we're going through all of the firings right now too. But that's technically already happened, but the rehirings, people's lives are just being upended and changed here. So a successful, healthy program is good for a lot of people. The town, the merchants there, the families involved with the athletics, and the fans, brain cells and heart palpitations. It's good when Auburn football is successful. So, all right, Hal, thank you so much for calling in tonight. It's always good to hear from you, buddy. I'd love to hear from you some
Kyle,
more.
thank you. Have a good night.
All right, you too, Hal. Thanks. All right, we got our next caller on the line here. We will say hello to, actually, hang on one second. Let me check in here and make sure that I've gotten all the topics that I know some of y'all were talking about DCs and OCs recently. So maybe we'll talk about some of that with our next guest here. We'll get him in. Mr. Thomas, what's going on? Or at TM Manville on Twitter.
How are y'all this evening?
Doing good. We have hit a lot of things tonight. Honestly, I like the amount of different subjects we've hit so far in the calls tonight has just been all over the place, because I kind of thought we'd be like one direction tonight, and we've just had a lot of good conversations elsewhere. So I'm just trying to wrap my head all around it right now.
It's been a good one so far, man. Like you said, just about every topic's been covered, except for coordinators or possible transfers.
Well, hit me up. Hit me up with some coordinator talk. That's what people are really wanting to know.
All right. OC, I can't give you one. I hadn't gotten that far into it. But DC, my pick is Jim Leonard, the guy that took over as the interim at Wisconsin. I like the style of play that his defenses have had over his time there, but he did announce today he's not returning to Wisconsin. So that makes that he's available at least. But that's just my pick. I think it would fit. I've heard Zach Arnett from Mississippi State. Eventually the guy wants to be a head coach, but if he can move, it's clearly a move up from Mississippi State to Auburn in terms of coaching, and even if it's the same position on staff, but it's a step up. I think that would make sense for him. Charles Kelly is the co-defensive coordinator or assistant defensive coordinator at Alabama. He's an Auburn guy. I've heard a lot about it, and he's a killer recruiter from everything that I can find on. But Travis Williams' name keeps coming up too, and that makes me awfully excited.
So let's park it here for a second. And I would love to poll the room. And I know I haven't been able to hit y'all's comments a lot tonight because we've had a lot of great callers, but this is a good chance for you to kind of interact with us in the comments section right now. This is in no way you indicating that you don't love Travis Williams or you love Travis Williams. I just want a quick poll of the room as we're on this topic. Yes or no, do you want Travis Williams, or let me rephrase that. Yes or no, do you think Travis Williams is ready to be the defensive coordinator in the SEC? What do you think? Yes or no? Thomas, what do you think?
My little Auburn loving heart wants to say yes, but I think another year or two at that level that he's at right now could really prove beneficial for him in the long run. I want to trust it. I do. But again, Jim Leonard is going to be my pick right now. And I think Charles Kelly is probably in second place as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. You took my phrase. First of all, my little Auburn loving heart. I think Travis Williams would have a surprising amount of success quicker than most logical brains would take us to, taking the emotions out of it. But I just don't know. I don't know how well. I haven't, believe it or not, as much of a Gus Malzahn fan I am, I haven't watched a whole lot of their games because he's not my head coach anymore. So I flip over there when I see them playing. It's like, oh, they winning or they losing? Okay, great. I might smile for a minute and then move on. So I haven't watched Travis Williams, dug into it to see if he's a good fit to be in the SEC yet. I would love it in some extent, but to me, it seems better to find someone that has that track record at Power 5 level. SEC. Arnett, as you brought up, would be a good one to. What about this one? Chris Kiffin.
I don't
Cleveland
hate it.
Brown.
I don't hate the idea of Chris Kiffin being brought in there, especially with the other guys that we're retaining on staff. There's a lot of guys out there that could really fit the mold for this team moving forward, especially because we're replacing so many pieces of the defense right now.
Yeah.
We're pretty much replacing the whole defensive line and the majority of the linebacking, a little bit of secondary.
Yeah.
But the whole front seven has got to be replaced, and it's got to be done the right way. I'm confident in the defensive line coach. I went back and watched some Liberty games, and I really wish we'd have had him the last 2 years with the guys we had on the D-line.
Yeah.
The things that they were doing, their hand placement was really good. The way their feet moved was good. They were producing where they needed to be with less than desirable measurables. And I mean, watch the Arkansas game this year where they beat Arkansas at Arkansas's homecoming. These guys played lights out. So I'm excited about that guy coming over for the D line, but we got to get some guys in there. So the transfer portal is, and Freeze mentioned it in his press conference. He's hitting it. We've seen an offer here, an offer there. I really hope we get Ra Thomas. I think it can only make the receiving corps better. There was a offensive lineman, I think his last name was Braun, from Ole Miss that entered the transfer portal today, and we just got their O-line coach. Maybe we can pull him over and get some other guys moving on the interior of the offensive line because we really, really need it. Because we're keeping Killian Zierer. I'm not exactly sure how to say it, but we've got to revamp the O-line now, and I think we need to bring in 4 to 5 guys as soon as we can.
So 2 things I want to point out with this discussion. First of all, notice where we need the most players right now. And traditionally, this is true just because you've got a group of 5 and a group of traditionally 4 that sit together. The offensive line and the defensive line. We are losing everybody. You got to fill those gaps big time. So that's already going to present some problems in itself. But look at 2 of the first hires that Hugh Freeze has made. Offensive line, defensive line. That tells you something. His priorities, these guys got to be in place even before my DC's here, so that we can have some continuity, or not continuity is not the right way to say it, but some assurance of what direction this vision is going to have for those units. So I thought that was a very smart, thinking about that now, it's a very smart decision by Hugh Freeze, because people were saying, why are we hiring all these people without an OC and a DC? Shouldn't you do those first? I mean, that would make sense. That happens a lot of the time. But sometimes you've already been given a verbal yes, and you can't just do it because you're still coaching a game, you're still coaching a team, all that kind of stuff still going on. Another point that Jacob brought up when we were asking about Travis Williams, he says no, answering that question, is he ready? But having McGriff as co-DC, which is in his bio on Twitter, I shared it out. That went really not viral, but just busy for us. I was shocked the amount of people. I was like, I hope Wesley McGriff doesn't mean to leave that up there, and I just kind of called him out for it. But if he's going to be a co-DC, sometimes that's just a title for money. But with that level of experience, I would be fine with Travis Williams coming in as a DC because you've got a Wesley McGriff there with you. That's one way to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's there are some coaches that can just run the system, but then on the other hand, it takes a village to raise one. So I think having a staff built around playing defense where they know each other, that's more beneficial than just one guy saying, this is my playbook, or here's how I adjust to what they're showing me.
Yeah.
I think with more, you got more brains involved when you got more people involved. I think it's a better situation for a defensive.
It is. So we've talked about DC. Let's talk about OC. And you guys obviously share some more thoughts about OC too. I know you said you don't have a lot of opinions about it, but just some general things. I mean, any inclination or just idea, what do you think he should do as far as OC?
He tends to call the plays himself, but he did mention wanting maybe a little help in that. And, in today's day and age of football, and he acknowledged things have changed since the last time he was an SEC head coach. Derek Nix keeps coming up a lot. He's the receivers coach at Ole Miss. He's been there forever. I think it's close to 15, maybe 20 years, somewhere in there. people say he doesn't want to leave, but man, for the right amount of money, how do you not? And being for that long, he was there when Freeze was the head coach and before Freeze was the head coach. So, and he's also a killer recruiter in the state of Mississippi. So
Yeah.
that's the one that I kind of went into today a little bit, but I'm more interested in who we're going to bring in as a quarterback.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we've been so. Well, I would say really, I mean, we know I think we can all definitively say now we should have kept Bo. If you can't admit that at this point, you're just being unreasonable. Well, not that we did probably what we needed to. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's too many. I'm trying to make too many definitive statements. In a perfect world, Bo would have stayed. Just put it that way. We would have been a little bit better off. Not much, but a little bit better off. And that's not a reflection on how good Robbie could be. You know, that's just stating that Robbie's a freshman and he's got a lot of growing up to do. And did y'all see that throw he made in the Iron Bowl? I literally just stood there with my mouth open, was just like, what just happened? And that's not something you do by chance. That's something you do because there is an intrinsic skill. There's an intrinsic ability to recognize when I need to throw this, how I need to throw it, and how I need to drop this in there. It's just got to become more consistent. And that comes with time and stuff like that. So, but back to what we were talking about, I kind of went on a tangent there. I do think most people are more concerned about some of these positions rather than the coaches. But I do sense a growing frustration that there hasn't been a OC and a DC named yet. My biggest caution to people is just breathe and trust that the best options have already probably been chosen. They just can't accept yet. That's my belief. It feels that way when you name a co-DC already. Feels like you kind of know where you're going with DC. Maybe I'm naive. I think probably the problem is everybody is just clueless on what's going to happen with OC right now.
Yeah. It's once we get about midway through bowl season, we'll start to figure out who's coming in where. But
yep,
we have to back it up, pump the brakes a little bit, and wait a little bit. But
yep.
Who give me two quarterbacks you would want to see come in? Because for a healthy quarterback room, you have to have competition, and I'm not so sure there's enough competition behind Ashford right now.
Right.
I'm not saying that Ashford's not the guy. I just don't think there's that much competition behind him. Of course, he wants to get better, but who's pushing him for the number one spot? I don't think there's a guy there that's doing it. So,
yeah. You know, you hate to dismiss Holden Gerner, but he's still young. It's the same thing with Robbie, right? Robbie at least had 2 years in college, just he didn't play for one. You know, y'all disappointed me when y'all reminded me that, or at least made me aware that Drake May said he wasn't leaving now. That I saw that come up, and that was the first time in this transfer portal mess the last 2 days. I was kind of like, oh, I said, oh. If you want to make a splash, however you pronounce his last name, DJ from Clemson, would be a splash. What's that?
Is it DJ Uiagalelei?
Bless you, by the way. If that's how you pronounce it, you need to take over for me, because I in a nice way, I got called out because I knew someone was going to do it when I did our video about the tight end coach. I listened to some Liberty people say it, and I said, okay, I'm going to practice this, and I've already forgotten how to say it. So the fact that you even got out something that sounds right, kudos to you on being a better speaker than I am. I don't really know, honestly. The Drake May was kind of where I put my temporary eggs in a basket, because that was the only one that kind of made me perk up. I haven't heard anybody yet that makes me go, yes. I mean, you look, JT Daniels has been everywhere, and he tends to have individually some success. I'm not saying I want part of it. To me, the big names out there, the DJ, the JT Daniels, have baggage with them in struggles and things like that, not staying somewhere in consistency things. So there's no one out there outside some of these maybe smaller names that really excites me all that much. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to defer and say I don't really have two guys.
I get it. And, you know, I nerd differently than some people, but The two names that keep popping up in the very small circle of people I talk to about this is Devin Leary, and I think Hal mentioned him earlier, the guy from NC State.
Yep, he did.
Had a ton of yards, a ton of touchdowns, has played a lot of football. That name keeps coming up, and I like it. I'll have to watch more film on him to see if he's going to fit in Freeze's system or how he teaches quarterbacks. But the other one that I think is kind of a dark horse, but there's been a little smoke around is Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech. He's a tall, athletic guy. They didn't really want him to run that much, but he's a true dual threat guy. He's very close to Robbie Ashford, but what it's going to take next year to be successful with Freeze's offense and his tendencies is a dynamic running back and a dynamic quarterback. Not necessarily the two best in the league, but they both got to be really good because a lot of his offense is based off of that. So we've got to plug in a lot of pieces really quickly, and if we don't, it's going to be just that much harder for us to have success early.
Yeah, it's interesting. This week has just been interesting just because of the amount of information overload. Coaches changing left and right. I had convinced myself that Jeff Brom, who just got hired by Louisville, had already been there once. I know he had been there as a player. Like, I'd forgot about that. But like, I had already convinced myself that he had a Bobby Petrino situation of coming back. I was about to tweet out, what is it with Louisville in rehiring old coaches? And I said, wait a minute. I had to. So I am truly in an information overload period right now. So we've got some discussion about a guy who are we talking about, guys? I was trying to follow. Were you able to follow that at all, Thomas, about who they're talking about?
No, I have not been.
There's been some discussion about somebody's already on staff, kind of a co-OC, but maybe it's just a QB analyst type of situation. Dusty said, ignore the spelling. Just broke my finger. That threw me off there for a little bit. Anyway, a lot of information overload this week. Hopefully when we get back, we'll obviously have other live streams and videos, before next Wednesday, but hopefully when we're sitting here all together next Wednesday, we're going to have some more definitive things, more coaches to talk about, maybe some transfer portal commits and things like that. Because right now, for me, it's trying to just take all of this stuff and squeeze it down to what's most important, because all these rumors, all this speculation can get a little overwhelming for me personally. And I'm sure it is. Kent Austin, that's who they were talking about. So that's maybe somebody that's on staff as a QB analyst. I think they said Hope confirmed it or something. So anyway, all right. Final thoughts, sir, as we end our show today.
Well, I'm very thankful that I didn't kick the camera off the stand this week.
I forgot about that. Oh, that was so good. What did I ask you too? What was it that I asked you? Because it was almost like
prediction. You asked me for a prediction.
What it was.
You told me I was out of there as fast as Clint.
Oh my gosh. All I saw was this. All right, give me a prediction. I'm like, okay, man, you didn't have to just throw the phone across the room. Jeez. So.
I went to stretch my leg out and just went right into the camera stand, and there it was.
Yeah, it is what hey, listen, we all have our moments. I'm just thankful that my apparatuses haven't fallen on top of me yet. Hi, it's good to hear from you, Thomas. A lot to talk about the rest of the week, and hopefully we'll have some more definitive things next week to talk about.
Absolutely. Hey, y'all have a good evening. War Eagle, #E2C for life.
Appreciate it, buddy. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right. Great callers tonight. Some new faces too. I always appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and spending some time with us. Yeah, I'm starting to look more into the Jeff Sims guy, and I like that he brought him up. So I'm actually going to try to do a little bit. I had a bit of a hectic, busy start to the week. I was out of town, surprisingly, so I'm kind of trying to stay abreast of all the news and information, and only right now focus on the important, definitive things like coaching hires that are official. So with that being said, I would like to remind you all as we end our show tonight, please, if you haven't, smash the like button, It's a easy thing that you can do for us. It helps us. It's a huge thing on YouTube, especially on Facebook, on Twitter as well. Check out all the links in the description for ways that you can help support our content here. You can be a channel member. You could be a Booster Club member. All of those things are available for you there if you'd like to check them out and see what they're all about. We have that subscriber giveaway going exclusively on YouTube right now. You need to be subscribed. You need to leave a comment after this video for an extra entry. Trust me, you're going to want to leave a comment on every video that you can on our journey to 5,000 subscribers. We're at 3,100 as of tonight. Huge kudos to all of you for helping us get there and helping us grow our little family within the Auburn family. You guys are the best little family within the Auburn family. I mean that. I truly do. You guys rock. This channel is only great because you guys are here and because you make this the best place to be for me. And I hope that I make some semblance of that, to what y'all give to me by allowing me to hang out with y'all and talk about all things Auburn together. You guys, thank you. Stay tuned. Stay subscribed. Our next scheduled live stream will be the post-game show for that men's basketball game, but we're trying to get some other ones ready to go, and I'm sure we'll have some other video content with breaking news for coaches and players coming up very soon. So till then, till we talk to you again, War Eagle, my friends.